Hello and welcome to another episode of Two Average Joes. This is Joseph St. John. And for most of you know by now, I spent about 30 years in law enforcement. Had an opportunity to do a little bit of everything, including be involved in being in charge of major crimes there and crime scene search units. And got to work with a lot of great detectives who did a lot of great things. And my partner here is Robert Baker. And you can tell them a little bit about yourself.
Robert Baker. I'm a practicing attorney in Michigan, have been since about 97, 98. Practice a lot in criminal defense, do a lot of civil on both sides, plaintiff and defense work, and trial work and civil litigation. So we're here, we're doing the second portion to Karen Sue Beineman's case. We're talking about the Michigan murders. These are murders that occurred from 1967 to 1969, this being, as far as we know, the final murder that Mr. John Norman Collins gets convicted for in, I believe, early to mid 1970.
Yeah, this would be the last one that allegedly he did.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think for people, and we'll have a link to see the other episode. This was one of those situations where John Norman Collins, and we'll go with allegedly, he went from being very, very secretive, if you watch the beginning of these episodes, to being pretty brazen. And I think if there's anything that I would say, what's different, what changes, what makes things tick that's different, that would be the big one.
Yeah.
You know, he is now pretty brazen. He is, that day of the murder, he lets basically everybody see him and wears very distinctive clothes.
True.
He's a big, good-looking guy on a motorcycle wearing I believe, a green striped shirt.
Blue and yellow, I think.
Blue and yellow, was it? And everybody can, remember him vividly, including an off-duty police officer.
Right.
So he made himself pretty brazen. There's some other things there I think you wanted to point out to kind of tap onto that.
Well, one was a correction. I thought this was in Arbor. It was at a wig shop in Ypsilanti. And the day, I think it was July 23rd, around noonish was when she disappeared. There are things, like we have said ad nauseum, there's 3 or 4 main source materials that we're going off of. And one of them is Earl James's book, Catching Serial Killers, which he was the lead evidence officer for the Michigan State Police. I believe he was a sergeant at the time, but he conducted a lot of interviews and he prepared many reports, I think, for John Norman Collins' eventual trial, which we're heading to. John Norman Collins had dated a girl on the 20th, which this Miss Beineman's abduction and disappearance occurred on the 23rd, and he had done very similar things with her. He had picked her up. She was walking to the drugstore, gave her a ride, took her over to his uncle's house, Corporal Likes' house, which becomes very pivotal in this case and his conviction, and tries to put the moves on her. It doesn't work. She takes off, but felt, if she stuck around, that it could have gone badly for her. So.
All right. Very badly.
Right. Additionally, a correction, or I think I had said there were black marks, scuff marks in the basement. They were in the kitchen area, which would have been on the main floor, not in the basement, which was more, and this was what made John Norman Collins' aunt mad, because of the scuff marks in the kitchen. What I didn't point out either is that she had been tied up with electrical cord, bound. Okay, so I don't know how that fits in what was going down, because she disappears at noon, or say 12:30, 12:45, whatever. And then she is dead, at least pursuant to the ME's report, or the autopsy report, 2.5 hours later. Okay. And then, but she's not found for a couple of days. So, did he keep her in the basement? Did he tie her up with an electrical cord and do what? Have other people come over? I mean, these are all just guesses on my part.
there's a lot of speculation because there's a lot of unanswered questions. That's kind of how I always felt.
Yeah. And what I didn't realize was that it got reported to the police relatively early, and they really didn't start. They said they were investigating, but it really didn't seem like they were investigating hard until the body was found. But John Norman Collins was in their sights right away because Larry Mathewson, and we have an interview with him. I interviewed him. I think it was in
a couple of weeks. We'll have that up.
Yeah, we'll have that up. But he was an EMU campus cop, and he was actually seemed to be more skilled as an investigator than most of the others that we've seen.
Yeah, I hate to say it. He was in the business for a couple of weeks, and he seemed to have a better understanding than some other people.
Yeah. So, but he had seen John Norman Collins, and that put him John Norman Collins in the crosshairs of the investigation early on, before Miss Like and Mr. Like figured out that they had left their nephew there to watch the house and things. That, there's blood found on the walls, and this is all going to come up in the trial. When
we do the 2 episodes on the trial, it'll take 2 episodes to do the trial. Yeah. And we've done 2 episodes on most of the victims, and it's kind of been a bigger one, and then in the case the second one a little bit more of a cleanup. I think the one with the court will probably just be 2 longer ones, and then the interview will be much longer.
Yeah.
But I think that we have a lot to talk about the trial, and a lot to talk about the kind of strangeness around it, because all of a sudden it does seem like there's a rush, that there is a focus on John Norman Collins. Now, there should have been one earlier, but a lot of things start to come apart on him, including the Likes, both the husband and wife, having a lot of questions about what he did while they were gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was a lot of strange things about, so they fingerprint the house, and there's none of John Norman Collins' fingerprints in the house at all.
Right.
Which is strange, and nobody else's either. So
one interesting thing about Collins is actually the original complaint with him is not that he murdered anybody with Mrs. Like. It's the fact that he scuffed up the house.
Yeah. And there was some
of the chores they asked him to do. And that's an interesting thing, because that's facts.
Yeah. And then there were some things missing, like a paint can. Mm-hmm. He was supposed to change I think it was a fuse or something.
Yeah,
like
and he
that.
didn't do it. Yeah. And his paint can was missing. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Most of us wouldn't have noticed that, but she did.
That is true.
That was interesting. She was a meticulous person. And here's the weird part, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I think when we go into court, you're going to probably realize she wished she hadn't said anything. Yeah. And I hate to say that, because everybody's supposed to be good people.
Yeah.
But I'll stick by what I'm saying.
Right. Well, they had a unique relationship. I mean, I think Mr. and Mrs. Like seemed to have kind of raised him, or at least took him.
I think they, and I hate to use the term adopt, because I don't mean it in the literal sense, but I do think that in the figuratively sense, they had adopted him.
Yeah.
They had brought him into the fold, as they used to say.
Yeah, and we've said it all along, but this is a good-looking guy who is intelligent and seemed, on the outside anyway, to have everything going for him. So that is why I believe that he wasn't in the crosshairs like he should have been as a true suspect until.
I don't want to go down this rabbit hole right now, because I think that it's a whole other episode, and I think it's an episode separate from anything we do with John Norman Collins, because it is not unique to John Norman Collins. I think that basically people want to believe they know what bad guys look like.
Right.
And there will be very stereotypical views of what bad guys are. And it's usually people that they don't like. I'm just being blunt. Who's the bad guys? And they'll tell you. And it's usually people they don't like or they're not comfortable with. there's some truth to some of them. I mean, some of the people you would say would be, like in the 60s and stuff, and they would say hippies and doing stuff. And then, Charles Manson and his group fits in that group,
Mm-hmm.
And people just saw that and they ran with it, regardless of what any facts would have been. They ran with it. Okay.
Yeah.
But many, many, many times people don't fit that stereotype. Okay. And people just don't want to either accept it. They don't want to look in that direction. They don't want to get involved in expanding their mind that maybe we don't know what bad people look like.
Yeah, I didn't know, and you pointed it out to me, and I haven't watched it yet, but John Wayne Gacy was a pretty powerful businessman, right?
No, I think one other thing that happens, and again, we'll do a complete episode on it, but I think we need to talk about it a little bit with John Norman Collins and about stereotypes and about why people didn't look at it. Okay. Yeah. And we'll do a more detailed one later, detailed episode. Here's what happens. And I think I'm going to start off with Charles Manson and give you a quick one. By the time the American public begins to get immersed with Manson, with the book Helter Skelter, Charlie has been in jail for a few years. Okay.
Yeah.
So things are now underplayed, like the fact that he was pretty legitimate in the music business.
Mm-hmm.
People were giving him a strong view that they were going to record him. If you've ever heard any of his stuff on the internet and, some of the demos from the 60s, some of that stuff was done at Brother Records, which is Beach Boys owned. Okay. Mm-hmm. And everybody knows he was hanging out with Dennis Wilson. Well, that's not something they gave to every other guy on the street that picked them up hitchhiking. Okay.
Right.
When Melcher showed up to the family and he was going there to deal with them, Melcher was his biggest producer as there was in America. Mm-hmm. He was legitimately thinking that Manson could be a recording person, or at least a person of interest because of his unique setup with the family. Okay. Mm-hmm. By the time that book comes out, he's just roaring racist madman who wanted to start a race riot. And all this other stuff, which is equally as important, has been lost.
Right.
John Wayne Gacy is a legitimate, powerful businessman who's very involved in the Democratic machine of Chicago. And that's a big deal.
Okay? It doesn't seem to get any play, though.
No, because now he's the crazy clown.
Yeah.
Okay. See, it's easier to sell people who are soft in the intellect that crazy hippies and crazy clowns, they do stuff. Yeah, them crazy clowns and them crazy hippies, they do stuff.
Right.
But if I try to tell somebody who's not really willing to think outside of the box, that a guy that was probably considered legitimate in the music business, he was actually thought of as being somebody who you may sign for a legitimate recording contract.
Yeah.
And a businessman who was a power broker in local Democratic politics, that's a little harder for people to swallow. Okay.
Yeah, you and I had talked about it, and there's probably a book in it, and it's probably called Catching Serial Killers.
Yeah.
That I think that there's no definitive textbook or explanation or even an analysis of the psychology of all these guys who become serial killers. I mean, you and I have both, we watched that Mindhunter thing, and I'm listening to every book I can find on it. Mm-hmm. And it really, the Mindhunter ones, they go and they interview serial killers while they're in prison.
Right.
But I don't know whether they're coming down to what you and I are talking about, because they seem to be, they have blinders on and they can't see, hey, these are successful businessmen. That BTK, he would have never gotten caught.
Yeah, he understood that, how about not, your computer will get traced, right? There you go.
Exactly.
I think, let me explain something too that I think that sometimes I don't make clear, because I'm not sure I even got my brain wrapped around it. But when I was teaching, I tried to explain this to my students.
Mm-hmm.
I always worry about interviews that you do with people when they know you're interviewing.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Because they have an agenda for one.
Yeah. And using Manson is probably the best example.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes theater. It's performance theater.
For him specifically.
Yeah, for him specific, but for all of them, it's like they have a audience where they can perform performance theater. They're going to tell you what they want you to hear about what their belief system is. Okay? Yeah. So if you're sitting down with a guy, gal, whatever you're doing, that's serial killer, it's not that what they're telling you is a lie, because there's going to be a lot of nuggets of truth to what they tell you. Okay? But you must mind it.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to do the mining of what is gold and what is BS.
Yeah, right.
And I don't know if that's as easy as you can. Like if you're investigating a crime, let's say it's even a murder, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can get that person to confess to the murder, and then you get the evidence to put the murder together. Okay?
Yeah.
You can send that person to jail or even get them the death penalty.
Yeah.
The story that surrounds said murder doesn't really matter. I know that's horrible, gang, but it's the truth.
It's absolutely true.
Okay, we don't care why. I know people go, we got to have a motive. Actually, no, you don't. It helps. But what I want to prove is that you actually killed the person. Okay? Yeah. You know, whether or not your story makes any sense, I'll let you and your psychiatrist take care of that. Okay? But when you, and that's fine. That's law enforcement, and that's fine. That's just an absolute fine situation. But it doesn't help you when it comes down to why are these people creating this mayhem? Then all of a sudden the story becomes paramount.
Yeah.
And getting people to tell you the truth could be mind-boggling. Like, I don't know. And again, we haven't had an opportunity to talk to him, though I'd be glad to.
Yeah.
We haven't had a chance to talk to John Norman Collins.
We tried.
No, you know, I mean, you know, I would love to talk to him. I would walk to Michigan to talk to him.
Right.
Yeah, I'm serious. I mean, I would like to. We've tried. Okay, we're getting nowhere. If we ever can, we will. Okay. Yeah. And that's my opinion. You know, you can't do it. But I think that both you and me, because we have a little bit more experience. I mean, first off, we're older. As you get to know. And we what we do in our profession, you know, would help. But I would never believe that he was telling me everything's the truth. But I mean, I do think as that person got older, there's a possibility for it.
Man, it seems in some of his interviews that he does. I mean, he says he didn't do anything, which I'm not sure that's the truth. But there are nuggets of truth throughout, like you said, mining for gold or whatever you got to mine.
Yeah, there's nuggets for truth. You just got to find them. Right. But you're mining for gold. And I also think that you have to be extremely careful of performance art. I think if you can remember the old Geraldo Rivera interview with Charles Manson, which was a complete and utter disaster. Okay. Yeah. It would, but what, not that it helped Geraldo, or Charles Manson, but for people, and I'll try to find that and put a link in there, at least a short period of it, where it's just pure performance art.
Yeah.
You know, it's just pure performance art. And it's not going to give you anything. He didn't say one thing during that entire interview that probably amounted to anything.
Right.
You know, like most people wouldn't know that he spent most of his time, and his followers spent most of their time doing stuff on the web about environmental stuff.
Right.
All of a sudden, Manson cared about the planet. Okay. I'm not saying he didn't, but most people wouldn't know that. They wouldn't think that.
Well, you know, Joe and I, we talked about it during the pre-show, but, you know, the Two Average Joes, when we started, we weren't going to be 28 episodes of the Michigan murders. And we're trying to do it justice as best we can, because it doesn't seem like anybody's done it, which is really interesting because it's almost a made for a movie.
No, it is made for a movie. We said it at one of the very beginning episodes. We said it. If Charles Manson doesn't have his situation in California, this is a gigantic case that everybody knows about, and there's been movies made about
Yeah, because he at least killed 7 to 9 with very little doubt. All right.
Right.
They when I talked to Larry Mathewson, he thought 35 to 50 was probably a more realistic number. All right. And you have, back in 69, you have a psychic running around.
Mm-hmm.
We just found today that there was some kind of undercover, God only knows what, put at the college named Horse,
Mm-hmm.
that was codenamed Horse, that was trying to infiltrate John Norman Collins and Arnie Davis as to their implication of their involvement in all of these murders. There was a task force set up. You've got killings in at least two states, probably 3, ultimately probably more. And there's no real definitive book. The ones that's why we're.
Yeah. And I don't think any of the books are bad. They're just not a definitive book on it. There's no helter skelter on John Norman's Collins.
So we don't have the files, but we're going, where's the investigation? And
this? I think that one of the things, and I think it's important we point out this case, we've gone into such depth because there is so many questions and so many holes. Okay. Yeah. We and I also think in the very near future, we are going to do several episodes on Gary. Yeah. About and there's always links in there about that, because that DNA and the weird things around his case, we're going to do that. But without an understanding of this, Gary's case may not make as much sense.
It won't make sense. It wouldn't make sense at all. You have to understand all of them. And that's why we went through this torture.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead and do it. And then we'll do Gary later. We'll give it a little bit of time to breathe, and then we'll do Gary.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. And I think this is the situation that you have. Because this case doesn't have that definitive moment, that definitive writing, okay? You do end up with questions like, there just seems to be other people involved. And I think that I've made that clear, and I think you feel the same way.
I do. I mean, the evidence is there that
yeah, I just think that nobody, if there was any follow-up, we haven't found it.
Yeah.
Okay. And some of the writing is not bad writing. They just did with what they had.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's what you have with here. And when we go into dealing with Beineman's case, we have witnessed at the beginning of this, if you didn't listen to the first couple of episodes, that it's a mystery. We don't know nothing about nothing.
Right.
By the time we get to the Beineman case, everybody in the entire town has now seen John Norman Collins riding on a motorcycle the day that she disappeared.
Yeah.
Including the 2 ladies from the wig shop.
Right. They went out to look at him. After she said, hey, I'm going to ride with this guy, they went out and looked at him.
And he didn't leave. He does not leave. He stays out there to get her, Yeah. So you are watching this incredible, and I hate to say it, metamorphosis of him going from being extremely cautious to being brazen. He was brazen in California, by the way.
Yeah, the first one, though, remember we believe it was him, hacked off the hands and feet.
Yeah, he was trying to be that selective of you not being able to figure out who she was.
Yeah.
So, there is that thing. And I think there's the thing where everybody want to go, they're all alike. Well, actually, they're not all alike. And there's some weirdness and there's questions unanswered. And that's why it's been pretty intense on the way we've done it.
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't think you could do it another way. That's just my humble opinion. I just don't think.
But we laughed that we're up to this is our 20th episode on the series of murder.
Yeah, and
there is a guy out there with a 12-minute video on all of them.
Yeah, and you know what? He's probably got more hits than me, but we're way more thorough. Just keeping it real, gang. Keeping it real. Not that we don't appreciate you. Many people, believe it or not, I know this is mind-boggling because we're on several different platforms.
Yeah, 19.
Many people have watched all of these.
Yeah, right.
So if you are one of them, I greatly appreciate it because we have tried to be thorough.
We do greatly appreciate it.
If we were going to end on Beineman because we're going to go into the trial next week.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's going to be at least 2 episodes, and it's going to be pretty intense. What would you think would be the thing that separated the Beineman case? This is just you looking at it, that made it so much difference that now this intense scrutiny just comes on to John Norman Collins and you can't ignore it.
I think it's a combination. It's a combination that he made himself so visible.
Right.
But then the murder, see, nowhere else did they really know exactly where I think there was only one other ones where they even knew where the murder occurred.
Right.
So the visibility tied with him killing her at his uncle's house, which I believe Mixer was. The third one was killed there also.
I lean towards that too. And we'll go into more detail when we cover Gary's case.
Right. So those are the two things that I believe made this one such what I believe they thought was a slam dunk. Mm-hmm. Also, I think them using that hair clipping evidence was a little janky.
Yeah, the hair clipping stuff, and we don't want to get too far ahead of us, but there were hairs collected and there were hairs found in the underclothes of.
Yeah, her panties, it looked like somebody had mopped the floor with them, and there were minute hair clippings, and they were put in her vaginal vault, and that's where they were found, and there was blood and semen also.
Yeah, and this is one of the first cases they ever used it, and it's just.
Yeah, that's really scary. Whenever I'm a defense attorney, and I can tell you, whenever they have specific tests as to scientific evidence and whether or not it's admissible or not, and I don't think that those cases existed back then to preclude them using these kind of things.
I am pro law enforcement, and even when I heard that, go ahead.
Yeah,
but there's actually things out there now that says that there's a Supreme Court. I believe there was a Supreme Court ruling that said basically, the fact that you might not have done it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
That's something I like to hear.
No, I'm
pro police as anybody, okay? But even I want some, justice.
It's a little more nuanced than that, but exactly what they said. It's
a little bit more complicated, but that's the layman's term for you. Okay.
Yeah, we'll get into actual innocence when we get to the Gary thing, but there was just a few things that I wanted to clean up before we adios out of here. And one is, you and I had talked about whether it was a bold box or a tied box. So John Norman Collins was seen recently or around that same time of the Beineman murder, driving away from his uncle's house, and it was a bold box.
Yeah, bold.
And supposedly it had women's clothing or different items in it. That was one thing that I wanted to clear up. And then I cleared up that it was in Ypsilanti and it wasn't in Ann Arbor like I thought, though I believe she was dumped in Ann Arbor, at least in Washtenaw County. And we had talked, I believe, about the Keystone Cops aspect of the mannequin, right? That last time.
Yeah, you're going to have to win on that one.
Right. And then we talked about Mr. Horse or whatever the heck that undercover guy that went into Eastern Michigan University. When we get to the trial, everybody starts coming forward now. All right. All these people that had not been talking evidently to the cops now come forward and say, yep, John Norman Collins did it. It's kind of like, I think it was Dahmer. They go, we thought he was a little strange.
Yeah, they're like, say they were John Wayne Gacy.
Right.
I want to digress a little bit because I do think you got to tie all of this together. There, and I don't know if this is actually true because I have not done the research, but the article was that there's less serial killers. I don't know how you prove that, but that's what they said. Right? But one of the comments that they made was kind of true, was like, you couldn't be John Wayne Gacy now. When people complained to the police, they would have paid attention.
Yeah.
I mean, his house stunk. Okay, I mean, they had gotten complaints that the house stunk. I mean, he had bodies.
I think Dahmer's did too, right?
Yeah, I mean, somebody might have paid attention. But just when I think that and say that, I go, maybe not. So disagree.
Yeah, right.
I mean, there's a lot of things happening right now that got me questioning my good profession.
That is true.
A lot of things going on. It makes no sense to me. So, And again, I don't know if there's less or not, but I just say, because I don't know how you count that.
Right.
I don't know how you qualify those numbers.
I don't know, because I had seen 2 or 3 different ones saying there's anywhere from 35 to 350 serial killers operating in the United States at any given time. And I don't know where they come up with those numbers.
I don't know how you run a census on that. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. One thing about it is numbers are dicey. So here's a little lesson, campers. Mm-hmm. Anybody that quotes numbers to you, just question it from the get-go. 1 in 7, don't know. But I do think that one of the things is we kind of close this up on, and we appreciate people watching this. And again, we're on several different platforms, and I have been right impressed that we've had people watch us all the way through. So we thank you. Hit the like and subscribe button. That's very, very important. Little link down there if you'd like to throw us some change. Any bit helps. Any bit helps. That's going to be more important, I believe, in the future, because we really want to be able to produce some other things. And I don't want to be a carnival barker, especially in a serious show like this. But the more we can raise, the more we can do a professional show, and the more we can do some of the things we have talked about printing materials and doing a little bit more documentary stuff.
Right.
So, we hope that we can get some people to support us on that. So, keep that in mind too, guys. Without your support, there's no reason to do it. And like I said, I've been happy. There's been some of these videos that when you put it on all the platforms that we've had a good response to it. And those people that comment, man, I love you.
Yeah.
Comment. That helps us. Yeah. We're growing, so we appreciate that. So with that, man, is there anything else we need to say on this one? Do we get ready for court?
We're getting ready for court, but also I did want to say this: as Two Average Joes, when we started, we were going to be a little bit more than true crime, and we got a little diverted in the very beginning, and we were digging ourselves out of that. But we have 2 other platforms which we haven't discussed, cross marketing. I think Joe's doing it anyway, but
yeah, I'm doing it.
We're working on some logos, and I am trying to figure out how to get us some merch.
Yes,
we do it. You wouldn't believe it does cost us a chunk of change to do this. And
it does. There's no free. Yeah, we're not talking about our time and money. Okay, yeah. We're talking about spending money.
Right. And though we enjoy doing this, and I hope we're doing it professionally, at least it looks like it based on everything that I look at, we're doing it on par, at least with most of them. I mean, we're not spending tons of money, but we're enough to have good production values, we hope. And we're going to get better. We're up to 20 episodes on the true crime aspect of it. We probably have 4 to 6 more. And then we were going to move on to more perennial type things. And we talked about some serial killing stuff, probably talk about some conspiracy aspects, the real stuff. And so please do hit the like and subscribe button. Hopefully we'll have some merch for you if it's not just a cap and a freaking coffee cup.
And I think you'll see other things that we do. We have a fitness site called 40 Plus and Fit. We have an entertainment cultural site called Southern Gothic Creations. And I think you'll see more of us doing that. It's harder to cross-pollinate.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to necessarily, take away from it. But I think that, we're going to start bringing more of that in so people can know where to find everything we're talking about.
Yeah.
Kind of like we're running different channels, which is a traditional model.
Yeah. But if you went back to the meeting us or whatever, I purchased a building, which I haven't gotten into because of COVID, but I'm working on getting into that. We're going to do a studio. We wanted to do things on music and comic books, which we're doing on the other site. We wanted to do stuff on fitness, which we're doing on the 40 Plus and Fit. So stay tuned.
Yeah, we'd like to do some book publishing too. There's a lot coming down. Coming down, and we need your support, and so we appreciate it. So a lot of things happening with us, and we probably keep giving you a few updates on that. So
definitely.
Until the next time, gang, we appreciate it, and thank you for everything you do. And
see you.